Hey everyone, so in this video what we're going to be discussing is we're going to be talking about how Brahmin Solutions integrates with your QuickBooks Online platform. So you're going to be using this integration this integration is going to save you a lot of time, especially if you do not have a solution that connects your orders with your accounting platform. So if you're creating invoices manually in QuickBooks and also managing orders somewhere else, and there's just no connectivity there, you're going to be saving a lot of hours. Also being able to track bills. So when your vendor sends over a bill to you, or when you receive the inventory and along with it comes the bill, right? Being able to create that here. So you receive it, now you can create the replica bill, and then your accountant can basically reconcile it and you can pay that off, right? And the other thing is your transactions. As inventory comes in, as inventory goes out, as inventory gets adjusted, all of these journal entries with your cost of goods, with your inventory values being tracked, all of this gets automated. Essentially, this is one of those integrations that saves businesses. We've seen it save over hundreds of hours actually, just because businesses were doing this part, the order management, the invoice management manually. So as they manage it, they also just going in and creating that manual invoice. And sometimes it's like takes 2 or 3 minutes to create an invoice. And now consider 100, 200, 300 orders you're doing minimum per month, right? And it quickly adds up, and then managing that, seeing if you've been paid or not. Okay. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to go through the setup, the integrating of the two systems. It's super easy to get started. So we're going to click on the QuickBooks here, click connect, and we are going to connect the two systems. All right. It takes about a few seconds once you kind of go through this questionnaire to connect the accounts. All right. Once the accounts are connected, what you're going to do is you're going to set up the configuration. So you can turn on and off certain parts of the integration that you do not want syncing. Again, if you need a little bit of help here, you can talk to us. But for this demo purpose, I'm going to show you everything that Brahmin can do. So we're going to sync invoices, purchase accounts, receiving journal entries, taxes, adjustment journal entries, bills, payments, and sales journal entries. We're not going to turn on the invoice. Actually, I wouldn't suggest you turn that on unless you really need to. The default practice is that when we send an invoice to QuickBooks, it's going to send the sales order number with the Brahmin Solutions invoice generated number. Okay, so that way you can either look it up by either the sales order number or the invoice number. Okay, so you can do both. All right. The next step is to map your chart of accounts, taxes, and payments. So this chart of accounts, we have a specific page in our support document that tells you exactly how the journal, so basically the math behind bills, what happens, what gets credited, what gets debited, and same thing with journal entries, invoices, journal entries of shipments, purchases. Okay, so there's going to be the math behind it, and also tells you exactly, what are the accounts that you can map, right? We pull all the accounts from QuickBooks, and these are the Brahmin accounts, and then these are the accounts from QuickBooks you want to map. So you want to talk to your accountant and map these accordingly. Okay, so here's a typical mapping that we typically see is for the purchase account, you typically will map it with your expense account. For this, I'm also going to map it with the expense account. Accounts payable, it's going to be the accounts payable account, or the accounts receivable, it's typically accounts receivable as well. All right. For COGS, we're gonna set this up with the cost of goods. Here for income, we're going to set it as sales income. For work in progress or product inventory, I'm going to select inventory for both of these. For the manufacturing additional costs, I'm going to set it up as a labor costs, and for discount, we're going to do the discount. Okay. If you want to sync taxes between the systems, so for example, if there's an invoice with the sales tax, right? What you would want to do is create the sales tax within QuickBooks and map them. Or what we could do is we can just throw everything into a default account of tax, and then at the end of the month, basically you can reconcile. Okay. So here it is. I'm going to set it up with one tax account, and then for all the payments, so you can create multiple payments within the Brahmin system. So it could be bank, cash, check as well. And then you want it to sync to in QuickBooks. Okay. One thing to note here, a lot of customers do not, if it's a direct to consumer, they do not want all the direct to consumer, basically your Shopify orders, if it is a non-B2B or wholesale, they don't want those invoices to go into QuickBooks, right? And typically they typically don't. If they have a lot of D2C orders coming through, they don't want QuickBooks to be bombarded with a lot of these customers. It just makes it really hard to manage. So what happens is they'll typically skip the accounting for this, okay? But let's say you have an e-commerce integration where it is more like a B2B, or you're like a specific customer, even though you're direct to consumer, you want each of these invoices due to sync, and then you want the payments to sync. So if it's an e-commerce account, typically the payment is done ahead of time. So what's going to happen is when the order comes in, we'll take the payment name from the integration itself, and we're going to check to see if the payment name already exists here in Brahmin. If it does, we'll map it. And if it's already mapped with QuickBooks, we'll send the payment. But if it isn't, your first payment for that payment type will typically fail. And what you do is you come down here, it's going to create a payment for the Brahmin side, right? It could be something like, let's say, PayPal, right? It could be PayPal, and it could be something like PayPal, let's say, Fair, okay? So if it's that, it would come in, it wouldn't sync the first time. The invoice would sync, but the payment wouldn't sync. And then all you need to do is do the mapping. And then from here on, the PayPal Fair would always sync, okay? So for now, I'm just going to map everything to this. I'm going to, for Fair PayPal, I'm just going to say undeposited funds for now, okay? All right. Oh, yeah, I got to save the payment type here and save the account configuration. Let's just make sure the account configuration is saved. All right. One thing is, again, these are default settings for a specific, for the account. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, for example, if you would like to customize, right? What I mean by that is if you want to categorize your different purchase accounts, right? So here what we do is we have so this is a lightsaber production company. So we have the lightsaber, and here are all the components that go into it. So if you want to categorize your expenses, let's say, into raw materials and your packaging expenses, what you could do, or also track inventory of your raw materials versus your packaging inventory, okay? What you can do is you can pull up the specific item, and within the item, you can go into the accounting tab, and here, what you could do is you could change the inventory. So here I mapped it with raw materials, but if I want this to map with like a specific category of raw material, I have the ability to do so. So you have the system settings here, and then at the item level, you can actually specify it even more. Obviously, the item level mapping will override the system level mapping. Okay, so you can do that for purchases, cost of goods, sales income, and product inventory. For this, I just set it up for the raw materials. I've set it up as raw materials. For the finished product, what I've done is I've set it up as going to the finished products account. Okay, so once you map it, it will sync with QuickBooks. Again, you want to do it at the first time. So any changes after you've done the sync, you'll have to manually do it in QuickBooks. So it's very important that you set that up first. Okay, so once this is set up, now let's go into the invoice section, right? So obviously there's a specific invoicing video that you can check out that explains how to invoice within Brahmin. So anytime an invoice is created, so we'll go over here, click on an invoice, right? As soon as an invoice is created, click confirm, invoice created, it's automatically sent up to QuickBooks, okay? So invoice 77 will now be in QuickBooks. It's pretty instant. As soon as an invoice is created, it's there in QuickBooks with the total amount, all right? You can also do split invoicing. You can come down here, see all the orders that you do need to invoice. I haven't invoiced this. So if you want, you can do a split invoice. You can do 2 for now. Again, depending on your payment terms, I could set this as net 30 and do the rest, okay? Confirm. So I've basically created invoice 78 and 79. Invoice 79 has net 30. Invoice 78 has it's due now, right? If I go over to the invoice section in QuickBooks, I'll be able to see that as well. Okay, 78 due today, 79 there. Okay, and then the other thing is you can also, there's a specific invoices screen within Brahmin where you can see all of your invoices. Also, you can see if it's been synced with QuickBooks or not. Okay, you can see it here. You can also see it in another place as well. So you can also go to add-ons, integrations. You go over to the QuickBooks side and then you go to logs. It's going to tell you if it's been synced or not. Okay. The other thing that you could do is you can also make payments against your You can also make payments against invoices. So if I were to go into the invoice, which is due today, I'm gonna decide, all right, let's just make a payment against it. Click pay, right? So once you basically do make a payment against, let's go in here. All right. So once you do make a payment, what's going to happen is, once you do make a payment, what's going to happen is your payment will also sync with QuickBooks. All right. So once a payment is made, it takes a few seconds. You'll see that invoice has been paid, and there it is. Okay. So once you make a payment within the system, the invoice is also synced here. And then again, if you refresh it, you're going to see that the payments have been synced. Okay. Making changes invoices will automatically update in, again, it goes from Brahmin to QuickBooks. Making changes will update it in QuickBooks. You can adjust the invoice totals will again update in there. You can delete an invoice, which will automatically delete the invoice in QuickBooks, and then you can reissue it again. Okay. So there's a bunch of things that you can do. Also, if you have your own invoice number, let's say you want to use a PO number, you can enter that there, and instead of it using the Brahmin Solutions sales order and invoice number, it's going to use the invoice number that you have there. So a lot of times customers will use purchase orders or the invoice numbers that they get from the specific customer, right? And they want to just match it. They get the PO number, right, from the specific customer, and they want to use the PO number as the invoice number so they can identify it, right? You could do that. Okay, moving over to the purchasing side, okay? So it's very similar to that of a bill, of an invoice. So if you're ready to bill a purchase order that has been received, you could do it anytime after confirming the order. All you need to do is go over to the bill, similar format that you have an invoice. You can bill partial or you can bill or complete bill. So in this case, I'm just going to bill partial, say net 30 for one, and then here I'm going to create a new bill, confirm it. So I've created bill 11 and bill 12. So if I go over to the expenses side, here are it just takes like a minute or so to get the bills into here. So let's also make sure that the bills did sync in the accounting as well. Okay, so we're going to go here. All right, we do see that the bills have synced. So let's see here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have to go to the unpaid section here in QuickBooks, and you'll see that the bills have synced in. Okay, so here are the two bills, 6,000, 17,000. There they are. Okay, so let's open up one of these. So here it is, right? The bill 11 and bill 12. Okay, they've synced in from Brahmin. All right, so the bill payment is actually taken care of in QuickBooks. That does not sync back to Brahmin at all. All right, so that's typically done here. Okay, moving on. The next part of the integration is going to be. Let's take a look at actually on the purchases side. Let's take a look at journal entries. So anytime you receive inventory, it's going to create a journal entry. So if I were to take this specific PO, if I were to duplicate this PO, right? Anytime I receive inventory, that will also basically put that inventory into the inventory account. So going over to receiving, I'm only going to receive just one of this item. So here, I'm going to receive this. This is serial track. So we're going to generate the serial numbers and then click receive. Okay, so I've received the control module. Control module is about $1,200, so it's about $12,000, right? So if I go over here and look at the most recent journal entry, you'll see journal entry for this PO for $12,000. Okay, so as soon as things are received, it's going to go into the inventory and get updated as well. All right. Okay, now moving on to the sales side, same exact thing. When an inventory is marked as shipped, it will also create a journal entry into QuickBooks as well. Same exact thing. We'll create a journal entry. It will remove it from product inventory, update cost of goods. If you do any adjustments in Brahmin, so increasing the inventory or decreasing the inventory, will automatically also update the journal entries. Again, all this data is shown in our support document. And then finally, going over to the manufacturing side, you producing the products also updates a journal entry. So me clicking start and picking the inventory basically takes this inventory and these operations. So if I were to check this, you'll see the work order journal entry being essentially tracked here, right? So you can see the whole cost of it basically going down. So the component cost is being shown in this work order essentially. Okay, so you can see inventory. So you can see manufacturing journal entries also being reflected and then going into appropriate accounts as well. All right. So this is pretty much an overview of the Brahmin Solutions, where it does the automation for you from the purchasing side, bills, receiving, manufacturing, taking raw materials, converting them into finished goods, and then obviously selling them. And then once you do sell them and ship them out of your warehouse, updating the journal entries. So all of this is automated and it's happening at real time. Anytime if there is ever an error, you can just look at the integrations. If there is an error, you can just resync the error. Sometimes QuickBooks will error out, maybe time out. There's multiple transactions being synced, and then you have the ability to kind of go in and resync. Or if there's a duplicate customer, right, doesn't know which one to sync it with, you can go and make the appropriate changes. Okay, so if you guys want to see a more in-depth demo or have more questions, feel free to book a call with us, and then we'd love to kind of walk you through it again, taking your data and showing you how that would work for you. All right, thank you.